A very good day to you, grade 12 learners. Welcome to today mathematical literacy lesson. And then I hope you're going to enjoy the lesson. My name is Mampani Kekana. And then today our focus will be on tariff system. And then boys and girls, remember tariff system is a section under finance. So stay tuned and then I hope you're going to enjoy this lesson. So, boys and girls, under tariff system, this is what you must know. Very, very important that for each and every section, you know what is expected of you. And it's very, very important that every concept in each and every section, you need to know it. It's very, very, very important. So, under tariff system, boys and girls, this is what you need to know. You need to know that with regard to tariff system, we're going to learn about municipal tariffs. So at home, you are using water, you are using electricity. So at the end of the month or after the usage, you have to pay a certain amount for the amount of water or the amount of electricity that you have used. So in this section of tariff system, we are also going to learn about municipal tariffs or how they charge you the amount of water that you are using at home or the amount of electricity that you are using at home. Then the second one, boys and girls, is you are using cell phones on daily basis. You are using, or some of you parents are still using telephones at work and so on. So just remember that those cell phones that you're using when you make calls, or your parents when are making calls using their work phones, just remember that they are being charged as well. So we are also going to look at tariff, telephone tariff or cell phone tariff. And then the third one is a transport tariff. Boys and girls, you may be aware that some of you are using Bolt or are using Uber, and some of you parents are using buses on daily basis. Some of you parents are using taxis to and from work. So that is just an example of a transport tariff. And in the third one, under tariff system, we also have bank fees. So again, remember that when you go to a bank, you withdraw money. When you go to a bank to withdraw money, just remember that they are charging you a certain amount. It's not for free. Okay, so if you've got 2,000 rand or 3,000 rand in a bank account, and then you need to withdraw 200 rand or 300 rand, there's a certain fee that you have to pay to withdraw that money. So this is what we are going to focus at under this tariff system. Now, boys and girls, again, if we are working with any concept in mathematical literacy, if we are working with any concept or any section, obviously you'll be or you are going to encounter certain terminologies. It's very, very important. We cannot be working with a tariff, but you can't define it because the examiner might ask you to define the word tariff. So, in simple terms, you see that in this case, you must be able to define the word tariff. Okay, but still under the lesson objectives, you must also be able to calculate the cost using a given tariff, and you must also be able to draw and interpret graphs of various tariff systems. Okay, as I have indicated, that it's very, very important that all the terminologies that we are working with under tariff system, you must be able to define them. In this case, we are working with tariff. What do we mean by tariff? The amount charged per unit. So the amount charged per unit. Remember, the amount is charged in rents. It can be in rents or it can be in cents. But when they ask you to define the word tariff, you must be able to explain it. Boys and girls, very, very important. You need to know it. You don't need to memorize it. You just need to know it. When they ask you to define tariff, that is the amount charged per unit. In other words, how much are they going to charge you per unit? And then we are also working with tariff system. The examiner might also ask you to define the tariff system. What do you understand by the word or by the words tariff system? That means by which different entities bill charge their customers for service rendered. So in other words, this is a system that is used by companies to charge their customers. Okay, like for instance, if you're using electricity, then ESCOM has to use a certain tariff system in order to charge you. If you're using water from the municipality must use a certain tariff system in order to charge you. And then consumption. What do we mean by consumption? If you are consuming, that is regarded as consumption. The usage of water, the usage of electricity, that is regarded as consumption. Then what do we mean by consumption? The action of using up a resource. The action of using a resource. So it means if you are using a certain resource like water, like electricity, then it means you are a consumer. That is regarded as consumption. Rate, what do we mean by rate? Now, it's a fixed price paid or charged for something. If they have to charge you a certain amount for water, if they have to charge you a certain amount for electricity, then you must know that there must be a rate. Like for instance, if you've got 50 rent and you know that for this 50 rent, if I have to buy electricity, this is the amount of unit that I'll be able to get. If you consume a certain amount of water, let's say you consume about 3 kiloliters of water per month, and then you must know this is how much they're going to charge you per kiloliter. So in that case, that is a rate. Now a rate is a fixed price paid or charged for something. Okay, now with tariffs, these are the most important things that you need to remember about tariffs. Tariffs are not always constant. So they are not always constant. What do we mean by that? Example, the price of electricity or water per unit gets more expensive the more electricity or water you use. Now, boys and girls, as you know that water is a challenge in our country. So since water is a challenge in our country, our municipalities or our government have to find a way of encouraging people not to use a lot of water, or they have to find a way of encouraging people to save water. So when they say tariffs are not always constant, what does that mean? It means the more water you're going to use, the more you're going to pay. The more electricity you're going to pay, the more electricity you're going to use, the more you're going to pay. So that is what they mean by tariff are not always constant. And the same thing with cell phones. For cell phones and electricity, there are two main tariff systems, namely prepaid and contract or monthly billing. Okay, some of you, your parents bought you cell phones, so you don't have to pay any amount on monthly basis. So you only um, spend the money based on how you use your cell phone. So that is regarded as a prepaid. You can only use your cell phone, like for instance, to browse the internet, to use WhatsApp and so on, only if you've got data. You have to buy the data in order to use that cell phone. So the same thing with electricity. We know that some of you have to buy units of electricity in order to have electricity in your house. But we know that in some places or in some municipalities, people are allowed to use a certain amount of electricity, or they are allowed to use as much electricity as possible, and then they can pay afterward. That means by the end of the month, they will receive a bill and then they can pay for that electricity. The same thing with water. I know in some places they have actually introduced a system where people um, have to load their cards, for instance, in order to have a certain amount of water in their houses. And then the next point is water consumption is measured in kiloliters. Boys and girls, we all know that if you buy water at a shop, you normally buy it in liters. Okay, it's either you buy it it's 500 milliliters, or you buy it as 5 liters or 20 liters and 30 liters. But why is it that in this case we are using kiloliters? Because that is the amount of water that you consume from municipalities. Then that amount of water is measured in kiloliters because it's a lot of water. It's a bulk amount. It's a bulk water. So if you've got a huge amount of water that will be measured in kiloliters. But we all know that if it's kiloliters, kiloliters simply means if you've got kiloliters, then kiloliters, it simply means we know the word kilo means 1000. So if you've got kiloliters, it means it's 1000 liters. In order to make it easier for them, instead of saying 1000 liters, they just say 1 kiloliter. And then we also have cell phones. Cell phones airtime measured in minutes or seconds. And then again, we've got transport costs depend on the distance that you travel and the type of transport used. Now, for those who are traveling between their homes and the city, they will know that there's a Ria Vaya, okay, the BRT system that is being used, especially in Johannesburg and also in Pretoria. Okay, so the amount of the amount of money that they charge there depends on the distance that you're going to travel. The longer the distance, the more you're gonna pay. So in some cases, you find that if you're going to travel for only 5 kilometers, you won't necessarily have to pay the same amount as the person who's going to travel for 20 kilometers. Okay, so the next one is bank fees. The bank fees depend on the number of transactions performed and the fees applicable to those specific transactions. So, boys and girls, if you've got a bank account, you've got money in the bank, and then you need to withdraw money, just remember that every time when you go to the bank and withdraw the money, they are charging you. Every time when you go to the bank and withdraw money, they are going to charge you. So just make sure that when you go to a bank and withdraw money, you withdraw enough, maybe for that week, or maybe for that month, or maybe for that day, so that you avoid a situation where maybe in a week you have to go to a bank and withdraw money maybe 3 times or 4 times. Or maybe in a month you have to go to a bank and withdraw money for about 6 times or 7 times. But we know that in these days, people are not using a lot of cash, so they can go to any store, they can swipe and so on, or they can tap. So, but the less you go to an ATM or the less you go into a bank and withdraw money cash, the better, because you'll be able to save. Okay, now with regard to water tariffs, so that is the first type of tariff. As we have indicated that water usage is measured in kiloliters, in kiloliters. So kiloliters means it's 1000 liters. So if they say you have used 3 kiloliters of water, it simply means you have actually used 3000 liters. If they say you have used 5 kiloliters of water, 5 kiloliters is the same as 5000 liters. The amount that the person will pay for water each month is determined by the number of kiloliters they use during the month. So, as we have indicated, some municipalities will allow you to use water and then you can pay that by the end of the month. There are different tariffs for domestic and commercial use. Okay, so domestic, it means it's when you use water in a normal residential house. Okay, like at your home, that will be regarded as domestic. But we know that there are supermarkets, there are business people. So for the commercial use, if you are running a business, maybe they are going to charge you a different tariff. Then again, it's water is charged according to a sliding scale. Now, a sliding scale, we'll get to that just now. Water is charged according to a sliding scale. Now, a sliding scale, it simply means the more water you're going to use, the more they're going to pay. The more you're going to pay. So we're going to look at that just now. Okay, so let us look at this. The sliding scale that I was talking about. If we look at this table, okay, this example is for electricity. Let us look at this example. Like for instance, if you look at this table, some people tend to think, like for instance, if they say you have used 200 kilo, 200 kilowatt hour of electricity. Okay, now this is just the most common error that our learners are making. Okay, this is the most common error that you guys are making whenever they give you this. So once they see, they say, okay, you have actually used 200 kilowatt hours of electricity. in a month. Then they ask you, how much are they going to charge you? What most of you are going to do, they are going to look at the table. They say, but this is 200. Where is 200? 200 is between 150 and 350. And then what some of you will do, they will take 200 and multiply by 0.8104. Okay, remember this amount is in rands. So this is actually like this, 0.8104. But if you look at this amount, one can say it's almost 81 cents. So they are charging you almost 81 cents. The reason why they have to give more decimals is because they want to be more accurate. Okay, so this is more accurate, but if you estimate it, you can see that in this case they are actually charging 81 cents per kilowatt hour. But the most common mistake is some of you will take 200 and then multiply it by 0.8104. And then, boys and girls, that is wrong. So the sliding scale, actually, it is intended to encourage people to save electricity. That is its intention. The intention here is to encourage people to save electricity. So what they do is they must take the 200 and split it. So the 200 must be splitted. So what they do, they say, okay, if you're going to use from 0 to 50, so it means if you're going to use 20 kilowatt hour, you're going to use 30 kilowatt hour, they are not going to charge you anything. And then if you're going to use 49, they're not going to charge you anything. If you're going to use 50 kilowatt hour, then it's going to be for free. Okay, so you're not going to pay anything. So for a household or for a home that is going to use only 50 kilowatt hour of electricity, they are not going to pay anything for that month. However, the moment you start using more than 50 kilowatt hour, they are going to start charging you. They say greater than or more than. The moment you use more than 50 kilowatt hour, they are going to charge you. They are going to charge you every extra kilowatt hour that you are going to use beyond 50 kilowatt hour. So don't make a mistake and say, okay, this one is 200, so therefore I can just go to the table and look where the 200 lies. So that will be a very, very big mistake. So it means what we have to do, we need to break this 200 down. So what they do in this case is if it's 200, in this 200 they're going to say, right, the 50, they're not going to charge you. So if it's 200, we are now left with 150. So it's 150. So from this 150, the 150 must go into the second block. So we've got the first block, we've got the second block, the third one, the fourth one, and the fifth one. If you have used 200, then they take 50, they say, okay, but according to this table, this person is not supposed to pay the first 50 kilowatt hour. Then it's okay, this is 50. We are left with 150. In the second block, they say from 50 or for more than 50 to 150. Now, how many kilowatt hours are they going to charge you in the second block? So this one we need to check. From 50 or for more than 50 up to 150, it's going to be 100. So if we look at this from more than 50 to 150, so it means in this case they can only charge you 100. How do we get the 100? Boys and girls, if you start counting from 51 to 150, you're going to get 100. Okay, so but the easiest way to do this, we always look at the highest number in the first block and the highest number in the second block. If the highest number in the first block is 50 and the highest number in the second block is 150, then we subtract, we calculate the difference. 150 minus 50 is going to give us 100. Okay, then in this one they say more than 150 to 350. Again, for this one, how many kilowatt hour of electricity are they going to charge you in the third block? So this one, we take the highest value or the maximum value in the third block, and then we subtract the maximum value in the second block. So this one we say 350 minus 150, this will give us 200. Okay, and then we've got this one is 350, more than 350 to 600. So if you take 600 and you minus 350, so if you say 600 minus 350, that will give you 250. Okay, and then everything else that is left will be charged under 600. Okay, now let's do it like this. If you've got 200, they need to break it down. In this 200, it means the 50 will be charged in the first block, and then the 100 will be charged in the second block. Okay, so here we've got 50, we've got 100. Okay, so it's 50, 100. Out of 200, we are left with how much? We are now left with 50. So it means that 50 will now be charged in block number 3. So block number 3, they are going to charge you any amount up to 200. And then in this one, they're going to charge you any amount up to 250. So this one we say, because they've already taken 50 in the first block, and then they took 100 in the second block, the remaining will be in the third block. If I give you another example, let's say it's 400. Now, if it's 400 kilowatt hour of electricity that you are going to use, then what is going to happen is, again, they're going to split it. They will say, okay, this people have consumed 400 kilowatt hour of electricity, but we can't say 400 and then we say now 400 must be from 350 to 600. What they do is they are going to break it down. So they break it down in what way? They say, okay, in this 450 must be in the first block. So we've got 400, and then the 50 must be in the first block. So if the first block they take 50, we are now left with 350. Okay, we are now left with 350. Now that 350 must now go into the second block. But in the second block, they can only charge you 100. So we say, right, let us continue. 350, we now minus 100. Okay, then we are left with 250. Okay, now it's 250. So it's 50, it's 100. So the 250, we are now left with 250 because 100 is going to be charged in the second block. Now we are left with 250. So from this 250, it must go to the third block. But if you check in the third block, they can only charge you 200. So it means from this 250, they now subtract 200, and then we are left with 50. Okay, so 200 will be in the third block. We are left with 50. So now that 50 will now go into the fourth block. So in the fourth block, they are going to charge you the amount of electricity up to 250. So, but now because we're only left with 50, so the 50 will be charged in the fourth block. Okay, now let us look at this one. So this is an example. Okay, remember the information here is the table alongside is an example of a sliding scale electricity tariff structure divided into 5 categories. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 categories or 5 blocks. It shows how electricity usage is broken down. Calculate Mendy's monthly electricity cost including VAT. Very, very important. Let us look at this. They say including VAT. If her electricity consumption for the month of February 2023 was 230 kilowatt hour, calculate Mendy's electricity cost including VAT if her electricity consumption for the month of February 2023 was 230 kilowatt hour. Okay, so there is 230 kilowatt hour. The most common mistake, boys and girls, this one I'm warning you. Don't say this is 230. Now I must go and look where is 230. Some of you will say if this is 230, so therefore the 230 is in the third block. But that is not how we do it. We need to break it down. We start from the beginning. We say, okay, from this 230, the first block can only take 50. Right? So if you've got 230 and then we subtract 50, okay, 230 minus 50, Then we are left with 180. So in this 230, we know that they break it down now. The 50 will go in the first block. Then in the second block can take anything up to 100. How do we get the 100? We say the maximum, okay, in the second block minus the maximum in the first block. That is how we got 100. Remember from the previous explanation. So we know that this block can take everything out of 100. So we say for this one, we say 180. We continue now, we say 180 minus 100. We are now left with 80. So we know that in this block, it's now 100. Okay, we are now left with 80. So no, obviously the 80 will now be in this block because this block can take anything up to 200. But now because 80 is our last value, it can only end up in block number 3. So this is 2, 3, 4, 5. Then this is how we calculate it. Right. According to this, in the first block, the cost must be 0, 0. So, but we can show the calculations. We say, right, for the first block, we take 50, we multiply by 0 0.00. This is for the first block. And then we say plus. In the second block, it's 100 multiplied by 0.616. Remember, you do not round off there, boys and girls. If the tariff or if the cost of electricity or the cost of water is given with 5 decimal places, you must use the 5 decimal places. And then we say plus. The next one, we are now left with 80. So we take the 80, we multiply by 0.8104. Sorry about the space there. Okay, so it's 50 multiplied by 0.00, then we get 0 rands. Plus this one, if you take your calculator and you say 100 multiplied by 0.616, this will give you 61.6. Then we say plus, if you take 80, you multiply by 0.8104. So take your calculator, 80 multiplied by 0.8104. Okay, that will give you 64.832. Okay, and then in the end, if you add up all these three answers, 64.832 plus 61.6, obviously plus 0, this will give you 126.432, and then this is in rands. Okay, this is in range. Okay, so let me show this. In this case, you must check, boys and girls. You must always check if the cost is including VAT or not. Okay, so we must always check if the cost is including VAT. So in this case, it's not indicated, but it is supposed to be including VAT. So this cost, it's already including VAT. So when they say including VAT, so this is supposed to be our final answer. But remember, even if the examiner does not specify the rounding, but we know that the value of money should be rounded up to 2 decimal places. So in this case, it's 126 rand and 43 cents. Okay, so that is including VAT, but in this table, it's not indicated. It's supposed to be indicated including VAT. So if it was excluding VAT, it means we're going to multiply by 115 over 100, or we'll multiply by 1,15. So this is one example. Okay, let us look at the next one. Similar question. It's Magdalene operates a small car wash business at her home. An extract of Magdalene's household water bill for December 2022 is given alongside. An extract for the amount of water in kiloliters used given as. So here is the table that is given, or here is the table that is being used by the municipality to calculate or to determine the amount of money that they must charge Magdalene. Okay, so for 1.1 is determine the number of kiloliter of water Magdalene used in December 2022. Okay, sometimes you would wonder um, how the municipalities know the amount of water that we have used in a month. But boys and girls, you should know that, or some of you should know that there's water meters at your house. Okay, there are water meters at your house, so therefore they have to come every month to take the readings. They have to come every month to take the readings, and then after taking the readings, they send those readings to their offices, and then they need to calculate how much they are going to charge you based on the amount of water that you've used. Now, if you look at this one, we are given the information about the meter readings. They say previous reading, so it means the last time the municipality came to your house to take the readings, it was at 053657, 053657. And then the present reading, that means now when they came back again at the end of the month, they found that the readings are now at 53,989. Okay, so it has moved from this point to the next, from this value to the other value. So it means they have to calculate the difference. Okay, so from this difference, it means we must take obviously the big value and subtract the small value. So the difference is the number of kiloliters, we say 0.53989, and then we subtract 0.53657. Okay, then if you take your calculator, you say 0.53989 minus 0.53657. Then you'll get 332 kiloliters. That's a lot of water. Okay, so this one is quite a lot of water, but remember, Magdalene is running a business. Okay, so for this 332 kiloliters, we need to okay, the question in this case was just that we need to determine the number of kiloliters used. So the number of kiloliters used is 332 kiloliters. So that's all we had to do in this question. Okay, then for 1.2, it's the tariffs are due to increase by 14.516% in January 2023. Calculate the amount without VAT. Okay, calculate the amount without VAT rounded to two decimal places for the consumption between 301 to 500. The tariffs are due to increase by 14.516% in January 2023. Calculate the amount without VAT rounded to two decimal places for the consumption between 301 to 500. Okay, so this one we have to look at the new amount, the new tariff after the increase. For which block? The 301 to 500. So this is our block. Currently, the municipality is charging 3,3158 in rents. So if you look at this one, that is nearly 3 rand and 32 cents. 3 rand and 32 cents if you round it off to two decimal places. So this is the amount that they are currently charging. But they say what will be the new amount after the increase. So there are two ways of doing it. So in order to increase this by 14,516, the first thing that we can do, we can say what is 14,516 of, or we can say percent of 3,3158. 3,3158. Remember, this is in rents. So it means they are actually charging about 3 rand. Now this 3 rand must be increased, or this 3 rand is going to increase in January. So for this we say 14,516, then over 100 we multiply by 3,3158. Okay, so now we need to calculate by how much is it going to increase. If I calculate 14,516% and then times 3.3158, so I'm getting about 0.481321,528. Boys and girls, can you please check it? Please make use of a calculator just to be sure that you are also getting the same answer. If I calculate 14,516, okay, 14,516 over 100, and then you multiply by 3.3158, then you get 0.481321,528. Boys and girls, we do not start by rounding off. If the tariff is given with 4 decimal places, you are going to use it with 4 decimal places. We only round off when we get to the final answer. So for this one, for some of you will say this is supposed to be about 0.48, or this is supposed to be about 48 cents. But we don't round off yet because it's not the final answer. It means now this is going to increase by 0.481321,528. We know that the value of money is not written in that format. Okay, we need to round it off, but for this we need to add first. So we take the new tariff will now be 3.3158. Okay, then we say plus 0.481321528. Okay, this is how we add it. Then we just say plus 3.3158, and then this gives me 3.797121,528. This is what I get on my calculator. Okay, but if you look at our tariff has got how many decimal places? It has got 1, 2, 3, 4 decimal places. So it means in this case our tariff must also be in 4 decimal places. So the answer is 3.7971. That is how we round off. We must round it off to 4 decimal places. So if you look at 3.7971, so the 1 remains the same because the number next to it is less than 5. If this number was more than 5, this was going to be 2, but it remains as 1 because the digit next to it is less than 5. So you must please, if you are not sure, go and practice your rounding, boys and girls. That is very, very important. Remember, as we always say, the value of money must be rounded up to 2 decimal places, but in this case we are not calculating the value of money. Okay, so it's 3.7971. Okay, so in this case, remember they say calculate the amount without VAT. Actually, I made a mistake here. Before I do this one, we must calculate the amount excluding VAT. So this whole amount must exclude VAT. So how do we exclude VAT? We multiply by 100 over 115. Okay, 100 over 115. Sorry about that. So if I say 3 point, I have to take the original answer, which is 3.7971,215,28. Then I want the excluding VAT. Boys and girls, this must be easier. The amount including VAT, the amount excluding VAT should not confuse you. If you're still not sure about it, go and practice it. It's very, very important. So This one for excluding VAT is times 100 over 115. I know that some of you would divide by 1,15. So this one I say times 100 divided by 115. Then I'm getting 3.3018, and then 4 and so on and so on. Please check on your calculator. This is what I'm getting: 3.3018444807. So therefore my final answer here will be 3.3018 with 4 decimal places. This one is a tariff. It's not actually the value of money, it's just a tariff. So if you check in the table, all the tariffs, all the values in the table are with 4 decimal places. So that is why our answer must be in 4 decimal places. Okay, I hope it's clear, boys and girls. I hope you understand what's happening here. Very, very important. You must know how to use these type of tables, but in this case it's easier because we just need to calculate the amount of tariff after an increase. Okay, then 1.3, it's write down one way that Magdalene can save water to reduce her water bill on rainy days. Okay, boys and girls, as we have indicated, water is a challenge in our country. Everywhere else, if you check in the municipalities, people are complaining about water being closed and so on and so on. So it's very important that maybe on the rainy days we find a way of um, getting water. Okay, especially we know that that water is not that clean, but at least you can use it for something else, maybe for washing cars, for watering your gardens and so on. So it will still be safe. So in this case they say write down one way that Magdalene can save water to reduce her water bill on rainy days. So on rainy days Magdalene can actually make a plan to make sure that that water is harvested, okay, by using jojo tanks and so on. So that could be one way. Then that water obviously can be used for watering gardens and washing cars. Right, then this is another typical exam question taken from Eastern Cape, September 2023. This one is currently there's a very serious water shortage in the Nelson Mandela Bay district. As I indicated before, boys and girls, water is a challenge. Dams are running dry and therefore the responsible use of water is very important. Table alongside shows the Nelson Mandela Bay regular tariffs for normal water availability as well as tariffs that are applicable during a water shortage. Use the information given in the table and answer the questions that follow. So the information is given and then the table is also indicated there. Then for question 2.1, boys and girls, it's write down the maximum number of kiloliter of water that a customer can consume per day in step 1. Okay, write down the maximum number of kiloliter of water that a customer can consume per day in step 1. Step 1, we spoke about block 1, however way that the examiner will name it. So in this case, it's step 1. The maximum amount of water that can be used in step 1 is from 0 to 0.3. What is the highest value there? The highest value is 0.3 kiloliters. So the answer here is just 0.3 kiloliters. 0.3 kiloliters. So that is question 2.1. Then 2.2, calculate the amount of VAT paid per kiloliter in step number 3 during normal water availability. Calculate the amount of calculate the amount of VAT paid per kiloliter in step 3 during normal water availability. Now, in step 3, this is our step 3. So step 3, they are charging 63 rand 60 per kiloliter. So they are charging 63 rand and 60 cent per kiloliter. That is when tariffs during water shortage. Tariffs during water shortage. You'll see that in this case, it means these rates are for daily rates. So some days they might say um, the amount of water is very low. So therefore, on that day, we are going to charge you 63 rand and 60. This is just to encourage you to save water. Tariffs for normal water availability. When water is running as normal, then they will charge you 28 rand and 96. So this one they say normal water availability. Normal water availability. This is 28 rand and 96. This 28 rand 96 per kiloliter. Very important. You must be able to interpret this rands per kiloliter. So rands per kiloliter simply means it's rand, how much they charge you for every kiloliter. So this is 28 rand and 96 per kiloliter. But this is VAT inclusive. In some cases, they will just say including VAT. In some cases, they will say VAT inclusive, but the words are referring to the same thing. So VAT inclusive simply means including VAT. So this is actually including VAT. But what does the question say? Calculate the amount of VAT paid per kiloliter. So if this is including VAT, how do we calculate? Boys and girls, you must know 28 rand and 96 cents if we want the VAT amount. In this case, we're not looking for the value excluding VAT, okay? But the value for including VAT is given, so we just need the VAT amount. You must know that in this case, if it's including VAT, then we multiply by 15 over 115. Okay, if it was excluding VAT, we're just going to multiply by 15 over 100. But in this case, because it's including VAT, we say 15 over 15. Over 115. So we say 28.96 multiplied by 15 divided by 115. So the VAT amount will be 3.777391 304. Okay, I hope you're also using your calculators, boys and girls, just to confirm this. This is what I get on my calculator. But because remember, this is the value of money, we're looking for the amount in rand, so we need to round it off. If we round it off to two decimal places, we get 3 rand and 78 cents. The first digit, we keep it as it is. Then the second digit, we want to know, is it going to remain the same or change to the higher number? That depends on the digit next to it. If this is 5 or more, then this will change to 8. But if this was less than 5, the 7 would remain the same. So the answer is 3 rand and 78 cents. Okay. Then the next question, still on the very same typical exam question, Eastern Cape, September 2023, paper 1. Mr. Rudolph claims that if they use 0.73 kiloliters of water per day, while there is a water shortage, he pays less than 30 rand per day, including VAT. For the water, is Mr. Rudolph's claim valid? Show all calculations in your answer. So if they have to use 0.73 kiloliters per day, okay? Now remember that mistake. If you look at 0.73, some of you will go and look, where does 0.73 lie? And then they will say 0.73, it's in step number 3. And then what they do, they take 0.73 and then they multiply by 28. Okay, they are going to multiply by 28.96. But in this case, they say that if they use 0.73 kiloliters of water per day while there's a water shortage. So water shortage, it must actually be this column. It must be this column. But are we going to take 0.73 and multiply by 63 and 60? That is no, big no. That will be wrong. So what do? We need to split this. We need to split this 0.73. We need to break it down. Okay, how do we break it down? We know that in step 1, they are going to charge you 0.73. But in step number 2, how much are they going to charge you? what is the highest number? What is the highest amount of kiloliters in step number 2? Is 0.5. So 0.5, which is the maximum in step 2, minus the maximum in step 1. So it means we know that in this one they can charge you 0.3. But in this one, in the second one, how much are they going to charge you? Is the maximum of step 2 minus the maximum of step 1. So how do we get it? 0.5 minus 0.3. So this one, they can charge you up to 0.2. Okay. Now, what about step 3? In step 3, is from 0.5 or more than 0.5 up to 0.8. So in this one, they can charge you up to, we take the maximum in step 3 minus the maximum in step 2. So we say 0.8 minus 0.5, and then this will give us 0.3. That is how we split it. And then step number 4, 0.8 and 1.0. What is the highest value? 1.0. And then what is the highest value? 0.8. Maximum in step 4 minus maximum in step 3. So we say 1.0 minus 0.8. So this gives me 0.2. Okay. And then more than 1.0 up to 1.6 is again maximum minus maximum in step 5 minus maximum in step 4. So it's 1.6 minus yes, 1.6 minus 0.8. So this gives me 0.8. Okay, so as you split the value, as you split the number, it's becoming smaller and smaller and smaller. So you would have split it into these values, and then whatever would remain will now be in step number 6. Whether it's 0.005 that will remain, that will be in step number 6. So now we need to take this 0.73 and split it. We know that in this 0.73, the 0.3 will go to the first block. So we say, right, 0.73 kiloliters, we subtract 0.3. Why do we subtract? Because this must be calculated in the first block. Then we are left with how much? 0.73 minus 0.3, we are left with 0.43. Okay, so in this case, we know, right, okay, the 0.3 will now be calculated in this. All right, we are left with 0.43. But is the whole of 0.43 going to be calculated in step number 2? No. In step number 2, we only need 0.2. So therefore, we are continuing. We say, let's take this 0.43 and subtract 0.2. Okay. If we take 0.43, we subtract 0.2, and then we are left with 0.23, right? In this one, I know that I've got 0.2, but after subtracting, I'm getting 0.23. Sorry, 0.23. Okay, so the 0.43 is becoming smaller and smaller. So first block, I subtracted 0.3 because the 0.3 must be calculated in step 1. And then according to this, in step 2, I can only take 0.2. So there is 0.2. If I subtract 0.2, I get 0.23. So this 0.23 must now go into step number 3. Now in step number 3 can take any number up to 0.3. Let's check. If I've got 0.23 and 0.3, okay, now I'm taking you back to the decimals. Between 0.23 and 0.3, which one is bigger? Which one is bigger or which one is smaller? Can you say 0.23 is bigger than 0.3 or 0.3 is bigger than 0.23? Think, boys and girls, think. Okay. Normally, when we compare the decimals, we must always check the first digit. The first digit is the one that will give us an idea which one is bigger. In this case, it means 0.3 is actually bigger than 0.23. So it means the 0.23 will actually end up in this. Okay, it will all be used in step number 3. So it means here we've got 0.23. Okay, we can't go into step number 4 because that is our last number. If you look at this, we have split it. If you add up all this, if you take 0.3, you say plus 0.2, and you say plus 0.23, okay, they'll give you 0.73. So we split it, we did split the 0.73. In that 0.73, the 0.3 it's in step 1, and then 0.2 it's in step 2, and then the remaining is 0.23, okay, which will be in step number 3. Now how do we do the calculations? So it means for this one, the 0.3 will now be 0.3 we multiply by, okay, we have to make sure that we are taking the correct tariff. They say they claims that if they use water per day while there's a water shortage, now water shortage is this one. So for the first block, they're going to say multiply by 20 rand and 81 cents. Okay, let's see how much we get. Okay, so 0.3 multiplied by 20.81, and then this will give us 6,243. It's not our final answer, boys and girls. If we get the answer in this case with 3 decimal places, we leave it with 3 decimal places for now. The next one is 0.2. So for 0.2, we have to use 31,80. Okay, so for 31,80, 31,80, then we say 0.2 multiply by 31.80, and this will give me 6 rand 36 cents. Okay, then the next one is 0.23, and then we multiply by the 63 rand 6. So 0.3 multiplied by 63 rand and 60 cents. Okay, so 0.23 multiplied by 63.60. So this is 63.60, and this will give me 14 rand. Okay, so when I add up all this, 16.628 plus 6.36 plus 6.243, and this will give you 27.231. Okay, so then for water it's valid, and then the answer in this case is invalid. Okay, it's valid because it's less than, sorry. Okay, so while there's a water shortage, he pays less than 30 rand per day. So this is valid is 27 rand. Remember, you must can round it off and say 27,23. 27 rand and 23 cents. Okay, so that is the answer. Okay, so we first have to do the calculations and then see if the amount is less than 30 rand or more than 30 rand. So in this case, it's less than. Okay, then the next question, number 2.4, give a possible reason why the Rudolph family is likely to use more water during December 2023. Now, boys and girls, you can just think about this. During December, we know that most of you are at home, and then you've got families or relatives visiting your home and so on. So obviously, because of a big number of people, the more people at home, the more water they are going to use. So in this case, is the possible reason, give a possible reason why Rudolph family is likely to use more water during December 23, because the whole family is spending most of the time at home, or maybe they've got visitors. The grannies have visited their house or their cousins and so on. So that could be one of the possible reasons. Okay, now we are now going to look at electricity, but boys and girls, with regard to electricity, they are using the same table, especially if you have to use the electricity and pay at the end of the month. We know that some of you, those who are using maybe ESCOM, you have to buy the electricity before you can use it. But in some municipalities, you are allowed to use electricity and then pay afterwards. Okay, the table alongside is an example of electricity tariff. It shows how electricity is broken down. Right, the table, so this one is write down the fixed monthly cost for the prepaid system. Write down the fixed monthly cost for the prepaid system. Okay, now this one we say is a system named prepaid. So prepaid is for those who have to buy the electricity before they can use it. In other words, if you don't have enough units, or if you don't have units, you won't be able to use the electricity. However, we know that in some cases there might not be anyone at home for the whole month. Okay, there might not be anyone at home for the whole month. So if there's no one at home, you don't necessarily need an electricity. Okay, you don't need a lot of electricity. Maybe you only need electricity for lights. Okay, in some cases, and then you're not going to use a lot of electricity there, because obviously there won't be anyone at home. But in some cases, they will still expect you to pay a certain amount. So the fixed monthly cost is 200 rand for the prepaid. Whether you're going to use the electricity or not, you still have to use you still have to pay 200. And for postpaid, okay, so for the postpaid, obviously this one, it depends on the amount of electricity that you have used. They are now going to use that table. Now this one, they say write down the fixed monthly cost for the prepaid system. So you must be able to read it off the graph. So it's just 200 rand. It's just 200 rand. Okay, very easy. Okay, then the next question. Okay, now boys and girls, the next one is a little bit long. So I know that we have been watching for a long time. Maybe you just need to stretch or you want to drink water. So let's take a 1 minute break. We'll get back soon. Okay, welcome back, boys and girls. I hope you have drank some water. We still have some time before the end of the lesson, about 25 minutes. So let us continue. This is question, it's actually number B. It's the Smith's household consisting of three people use 349.9 kilowatt hour of electricity on the on the postpaid system. How much would they be expected to pay, excluding VAT, for their electricity consumption? Then, boys and girls, we need to check if the information is there. In this case, they say it's excluding VAT, but if you look in the table, they say price excludes VAT of 15%. Now, how does this work? They say post-paid. Okay, how much would they be expected to pay, excluding VAT, for their consumption? So it means in this case, they are allowed to use any amount of electricity and pay afterwards. So which table, which information are we going to use? We have to use this information. Okay, right. For any amount from 0 to 50, they are going to pay 0.69 cents per kilowatt hour. If you look at this, it's R per, it's a forward slash kilowatt hour. Now remember, kilowatt hour, it's a unit for electricity, just the same as water when you are using kiloliters. So it means for any amount from 0 to 50, they are going to charge them 69 cents per kilowatt hour, or 0.69 rands. And then any amount above 50, okay, above 50 up to 350, they're going to charge them 81 cents, 0.81 rands. Then we've got 300 and, above 350, because you can see it's 350,1. So any amount above 350 to 600 is 1 rand 27 cent. Okay, now we need to split this. So it means if it's from 0 to 50, any amount of electricity that you are going to use, if you are going to use 300, if you're going to use 400 kilowatt hour, they are going to break it down. So break it down in what way? It means in the first block, they are only going to take 50. The 50 out of the amount of electricity will be calculated in the first block. So this is 1, 2, 3. We've got only 3 blocks. Then the next one, in this block, okay, what amount of electricity are they going to charge you? We now, remember I said maximum in the second block minus maximum in the first block. So this one is 350 minus 50. So 350 minus 50 is 300. Okay, so it means for whatever amount, the 300 will now be calculated in. And then this one, we say 600 minus 350. So if you take 600 and then you minus 350, 600 minus 350, and then we get 250. Okay, so up to 600 is 250. So this one, there's no more. So in other words, they don't actually, there's no, usually there will be for more than 600. So it means in this case, they just assume that you can't use more than this amount. The most common mistake, boys and girls, is for those who are going to say, let's say 349.9, then they check. They just say this 349.9, it must now be in block number 2. And they just take that 349.9, they multiply by 0.81. That is wrong. That is wrong. We need to split the 349. How do we do it? You should know now. So the 349 9, we know that the 50 must go into the first block. So if we take 50, which must go into the first block, then we say 349.9 minus 50. We are left with 299.9. Okay, so it means the 50 will go into the first block. We are left with 299.9. Now the 299.9 must go into the second block, but the second block can take up to 300. The 299.9, it's smaller than 300, so the whole of 299.9 will end up in block number 2. So it means in this case 299 will now be in block number 2. Okay, then how do we calculate it? We say, right, for block 1, we know there's 50 units. So it's 0.69 multiplied by 50. Okay, so if I take 0.69 multiplied by 50, then I get 34.5. So 34.5. You can just write it as 34.5, or you can write it as 34,50, but you can write it as 34,5 for now. Then later on, when we add, you need to know that for the value of money, it must be rounded out to 2 decimal places. Now for the second block, how many units? Remember, it's 299,9, but the tariff is 0,81. Then we multiply by 299,9. Don't get tempted, boys and girls. Even if you see it's 299,9, some of you might say, but it's almost 300. But in terms of calculations, it's very, very important. The decimals are very important. If it's given as 349,9, we can't just say I, but it's close to 350. Let's just make it 350. You cannot change it. Okay, then we say 0,81 multiplied by 299.9. Then I get 242.919. That is what I get on the calculator. Now we can add 242,919 plus 34.5. And then I get 277.419. Okay, so this is 277,419. Is this my final answer? No, it's not my final answer. Okay, we need to be careful. If you look at this, they say the price exclude VAT of 15%. Then this one, they say how much would they be expected to pay excluding VAT. So this is excluding VAT, all these are excluding VAT. So 277,419. So my final answer is must be rounded off to 2 decimal places. 277. Come on, boys and girls, you must be able to round off now. So it's 419. If it's supposed to be 41, we're supposed to keep the 1, but because the digit next to 1 it's more than 5, so therefore this will change to 42. So we need to check that. So this is 277.42. Okay, and then we have answered the question where they say excluding VAT. How much would they be expected to pay excluding VAT? It's not including VAT. Yes, the prices already are excluding VAT. So that is that. Right, then another typical exam question. This one was taken from Free State, June 2023, paper 1. It's Katiso is a resident of Vicksburg and used 460 kilowatt hour of electricity during the month of June 2022. The table alongside shows the electricity tariffs for Vicksburg excluding VAT. So this is excluding VAT. And then again, it's the same procedure, boys and girls. You must be able to interpret the table now. Okay. Then they say 3.1, the first question, write down the acronym VAT in full. Boys and girls, this one is given, you must know it. So the VAT, what does VAT stand for? Obviously is value added tax. Okay, please make sure that you get it right. Okay, you don't say VAT additional tax, okay, or VAT adding tax. It must be VAT added tax. That is what the acronym VAT is for. So value added tax. Okay, so please make sure that you get it right, because in some cases, if you miss something, if you just say adding or additional, okay, and then the examiner might be strict and not give you marks. So just make sure that you get it right. Okay, then they say determine the total number of kilowatt of electricity that can be charged in block 3. Determine the total number of kilowatt hour of electricity that can be charged in block number 3. So block number 3, how many kilowatt hour of electricity can they charge you? Remember, like we did it before, we said in this block 1 they can charge you 50. In block 2 is the maximum of this minus the maximum of that. So in this case they can charge you 300. Okay, so obviously in this one they will charge you 600 minus 350, which is 250. So the answer in this case is 250 kilowatt hours. This is the amount of units that they can charge you. Remember, kilowatt hour is the unit of electricity. Okay, then 3.3 is calculate the total amount, including VAT, that Katiso will pay for the amount of electricity that she used in June 2022. Okay, Katiso, remember, is a resident and used 460 kilowatt hours. So 460 kilowatt hours. Then I will always remind you that once you see this number, you don't go to the table and look um, for where it falls. It's 460. Some of you say 460. Then they say it's three is between or it's from 351 to 600, and then they just multiply by the tariff. Again, it's wrong. You need to break it down. You will see even with the mark allocation that you cannot just take this and multiply by this. It means the more the marks, the more calculations need to be done. So the 460, we need to go break it down. You should know up to so far. I'm not going to do it again. 50, and in this one we know there is 300, and then in this one we just did it is 250, and whatever remains will be in block number 4. Okay, so let's do it like this. From this 460, we minus 50. Then we are left with, so 460, 460 minus 50, we are left with 410. Okay, and then from 410, we know that the 50 will be, we are now left with 410. The 410 must now go to block 2, but block 2 can only take 300. So we say, right, 410 minus 300. So if you do it on a calculator, 410 minus 300, then we are left with 110. So it's 110. So the 110 must go into block number 3, but the block number 3 has got enough space. It can take up to 250. But fortunately, in this case, we only have 110. So this 110 will now go in block number 3. So I'm going to do it like this. According to this one, I'm going to multiply by 50. And this one, I'm going to multiply by 300. And this one, I multiply by. Okay, forget about this. I'm not going to multiply by 250, but I'm going to multiply by what remains. So what remains there is 110. If you add all this, 50 plus 300 plus 110, they must still give you 460. Okay, now I can do the calculations. Okay, let me just do it there. 50 times 1.5188, 1.5118, and then we get 75.59. Okay, I hope you're also calculating. And then the next one is 300. We've got 2.0251 multiplied by 300. And then we get 607.53. Okay, and then the next one is 2.6386 multiplied by 110. Then I'm getting 290.246. Okay, so about the space there. So those are the amounts that I'm getting for each block. Then I can add. The last one has got 3 decimal places. We don't round it off yet because we still have to add. So 290.246 plus 607.53 plus 75.59. Okay, so I'm getting a total of 973.366. Okay, for the payment, it must be 2 decimal places. Okay, they say it's excluding VAT. So this one they say including VAT. So we've got 973.366. Can't be my final answer, and then I can't round it off. I must first include the VAT. So for the price including VAT, I'll say including VAT will now be this is including VAT, will now be 973.366 times. Boys and girls, they or there's more than one way of doing it. I know that some of you will first um, multiply by 15% and then after that you add. Or some of you will just take this value and multiply by 115 over 100, or you multiply by 1,15. It doesn't matter. It depends on how your educator at your school taught you. But at the end of the day, the answer will be the same. So 973.366, if I multiply by 115 over 100, then I get triple one 9.3709. Okay, so triple one 1,119 and then comma 37. So if I round it off, obviously it's 1,119 rand and 37 cents. You should know how to round off um, so far. Okay, so this is the answer for 3.3. Okay, then the next one, colleague, boys and girls, it's similar to the previous one, typical exam question. So please allow me to move to the next one, because I'm sure up to so far you know how to interpret the the tariff tables. So I want us to look at the other type of tariff. This one, cell phone or telephone tariff system. Okay, so now this one is just a reminder that the length of time you spend on your cell phone will determine how much you will pay. Usually charged in rands or cents per minute. So they charge you, maybe they might say 2 rand per minute, or maybe 5 cents per second, and so on and so on. And then we've got a prepaid tariff system. A prepaid tariff system, remember we said it's like you have to buy airtime or you have to buy data before you can use, you can browse through the internet or use your WhatsApp and so on. But in some cases, some people who are taking contracts, they are allowed to use as much data as possible, then they can only pay at the end of the month. And then they say a cell phone needs to be purchased, and then airtime for the cell phone needs to be paid separately. Airtime is bought in rands, which are converted into units, minutes, or seconds. General formula for a prepaid tariff system is they just take the tariff. If it's 2 rand per minute, then and then maybe they say you have to use it for 100 minutes, and then just take 200, you multiply by 100. Okay, and then contract tariff system. It's a cell phone contract is taken out from a service provider for a specified period of time, e.g. 3 years. You might go to Vodacom, you might go to MTN, or you go to Telecom, you take out a contract if you do qualify, and then they will give you the benefit. They will tell you that for this contract, you can use it, and then at the end of the month, this is how much you're going to pay. All right. And then they say a cell phone is included in the package. So it means they're going to give you a cell phone or a gadget, any gadget, and then the cost per month includes subscription fee, pays off the cost of the cell phone, as well the administrative services. So in other words, if you take out the contract, you are not only paying, you're not only going to pay for the minutes or for the data, but you also have to pay for that phone as well. The general formula for a contract tariff system is, so if you take out a contract, maybe you pay a subscription fee. A subscription fee is maybe for the cell phone. There's a certain amount that you have to pay for the cell phone only, and then from there, depending on the number of minutes or the amount of data that you're going to use. Okay, so this is just an example. It's MTN offers 3 contract options. So when you go to a cell phone service provider, okay, it can be MTN, it can be Vodacom, it can be Telecom, it can be Cell C. Then when you get there, they'll always give you options. So this one, they say there's a red talk, there's a yellow talk, there's a blue talk. The table alongside compares the 3 tariffs. Use the table to answer the questions that follow. So it's which contract option does not have a monthly subscription. So you are given the red talk, you are given the yellow talk, you are given the blue talk. So this one, they say the monthly fee is 250 rand, this one is 115 rand, and this one is 0 rands. Okay, let's check. When they say a monthly subscription, what are they referring to? Are they referring to the monthly fee? You can just check. We've got inclusive monthly minutes, inclusive monthly SMS, peak calls, MTN to MTN, MTN to other networks, MTN to landline, SMS per message, off peak calls PM, oh sorry, per minute. It's MTN to MTN, MTN to other networks, MTN to landlines, and SMS per message. So the monthly subscription is the same as monthly fee. So they say which contract does not have a monthly subscription, that will be the Blue Talk 100. So the Blue Talk 100 is the one that you are not going to pay anything um, for the gadget. So that one, they're just giving you the gadget, you don't pay anything, but you're gonna pay for the usage. Now the next one is, what do peak and off peak refer to? Now boys and girls, the peak and off peak, we know that most people are using cell phones during the day, okay, and then in the evening most people are sleeping. So maybe from 10 o'clock in the evening up until 4 o'clock in the morning, many people are not using cell phones now. So it's not busy. So when they talk about peak and off peak, just the same as traffic. When they say it's a peak hour simply means it's bumper to bumper. The routes are very busy. Like in the morning, everyone is going to school, or people are going to school, people are going to work. So maybe from 6 o'clock in the morning up until 8 o'clock in the morning, the routes are very, very busy. But maybe from 9 o'clock, from 8 o'clock in the morning, or from 9 o'clock in the morning up until 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, the routes are not busy. So that will be regarded as off peak. But the peak, it's when it is busy, it's the busiest time of the day. So for this one is 5.2, what do peak and off peak refer to? The peak means it's the busiest time of the day, okay, and then the off peak, it's not busy. So peak, it means people are using, a lot of people are using their cell phones, but off peak, a lot of people are not using their cell phones. So peak simply means it's when a lot of people are using their cell phones in this case, and in the off peak, it's when a lot of people are not using their cell phones. Okay, and then they say compare the cost of phone calls during peak hours for from MTN to other networks. If a person wants to spend 275 minutes in a month, show by calculation which option is the cheapest. So boys and girls, for 5.3, it means now you have to do the calculations for this for 275 minutes. Okay, so for 275 minutes for the red talk, how much is it going to cost you? Now for the red talk, it means you're first going to pay 250 rent, and then the 275 minutes they have to charge you. So we've got, let's see. So for the red talk, so RT red talk, which is 100, then it's going to be, let us look at the minutes. If you're going to use it for 275 minutes, remember there's 100 minutes there. Remember they say from MTN to other network, if a person wants to spend, and that is during peak, that is during peak hours. Now this 100 is for any time. This one, it's free. So it means in this 275, we say 275 minus 100. So they are only going to charge you for 175. But for this 175, how much are they going to charge you? Remember, it's from MTN to other networks. So MTN to other networks, they're going to charge you 2 rand and 35, 2.35, and then it means they're going to charge you 175 multiplied by 2.35. Okay, this is 411 rand and 25. This is how you calculate it. So for the minutes, so it means in this case they are going to charge you 250 plus 411 rand and 25 cents. That will be for the minutes, plus 250 and then this is 661 rand and 25 cents. Okay, now boys and girls, I can see that time is not on our side, and then you have been watching for a long time, but this is actually how you're supposed to do it. And then now you'll go to the next one and look for this one. You have to pay 115 rent, but for the minutes they say 100 off peak. So these are free minutes, but these are only for off peak. So it means this person cannot this person must be charged for the minutes, because this one is for off peak, because he's going to use it for or during peak hours. So it means now you have to take the whole 275 and multiply by 270. Okay, and then when you go to Blue Talk 100, for this one, okay, there's no monthly fee. So what you're going to do is you just multiply by 175. You take the 275, you multiply by 170, I mean 175 cents. And then from there you compare the three answers. From there you'll be able to see which option is the cheapest. Okay, so boys and girls, I hope you do get an idea with regard to tariff system. We could not get to more activities with regard to tariff system, but I'm sure your educators will be able to cover all types of tariff system at school. Okay, so please make sure that you do pay attention in your classroom, and then if you don't understand, please make sure that you check with your educators. So for now, thank you very much for watching this lesson, and then I wish you all the best. See you next time. Goodbye.